Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Yes, welcome home, everybody. If you find that you have this huge problem in your life of never having anybody to talk to about movies, well, buddy, guess what? You don't have that problem anymore. You're welcome. ZakIsCinema is here to fix that because we all love talking movies together. So yes, please join us here at ZakIsCinema. Today we are going to be reviewing and discussing the movie The Conjuring 2, which came out in 2016. Ed and Lorraine Warren traveled to 1970s London to help a single mother and her children plagued by a malevolent spirit in their home, uncovering one of the most disturbing and dangerous cases of demonic possession they've ever faced. So as we jump into the review and discussion for the second Conjuring movie, obviously we're leading up to our new and last installment in the mainline Conjuring universe, the ones that just follow Ed and Lorraine Warren here. We got The Conjuring Last Rites coming out in just a couple days, and if you watched my previous video, we are covering the mainline Conjuring movies, so first one, second one, and third one, leading up to this fourth one here. So, but if you've seen my review and discussion of the first one, you know these Conjuring movies have such a big place in my heart. I don't think I'd be here or have my love for horror if it wasn't for these movies and how significantly they scared me when I was a young ZakIsCinema here. I really do feel like The Conjuring 1 and especially 2 really made me step outside my comfort zone and realize I could enjoy something that scared me, and that was half the fun of experiencing movies. Is it genuinely making you feel and experience something? And I remember these Conjuring movies is one of my earliest experiences with something like that. And I know for a fact the second Conjuring movie was the second horror movie I saw in theaters ever. And in my first review, I mentioned that the first Conjuring came out when I was about 13 years old, and I was petrified of horror movies. I grew up in a very religious household that just stayed away from that stuff. So when I saw the trailer, saw it was based off of true events and rated R for its scariness, it did something to me that I feel like I still have not fully recovered with how scared it really made me feel. But when this second one came out, I was around that 16 years old, and I was finally getting to a point where I was delving into a little PG-13 horror movies, and I'm like, all right, I think I'm ready here. I think it has been long enough. I'm ready to check out the Conjuring movies. And this was the first Conjuring movie I had ever seen. I watched this one before the first one here, and I just remember it being one of the scariest theater experiences I had ever had. So it holds a big place in my heart here, but I hadn't really checked it out in quite a while, but I had such a good time with the first one. Really looking forward to this review series and really hoping this last one reaches the heights of some of these earlier ones here. So let's jump into the review section, starting with the positives or just the things that I really enjoyed about this second movie. And right off the bat, I think this movie's opening does a significantly better job than compared to our first one with establishing the tone and giving us something genuinely unsettling right as the movie kicks off. It opens at the iconic Amityville horror house, where it's a strong way to kind of put you into the shoes of Ed and Lorraine Warren and really better showcases what their kind of day-to-day experiences are when they're investigating some of these cases here. And I think the best part of this opening is it does a much better job at showing Lorraine's vision powers, that different side of her that I thought kind of came off as goofy and cheesy in the first one. I think they make a lot more sense in this second one, and it comes off significantly better. I like how in this movie they're setting up this ritual almost around the table so Lorraine can get into her vision mindset, her ritual state, and she is awake in the house but almost trapped in a vision, reliving the night a man man went around and murdered his family and then later on claimed demonic possession. So we see them still sitting at the table, but she's kind of almost time traveling through the setting of the home in her vision mindset. And I think it's just such a more intense atmospheric way than what they showcased in the first one. I really do think that that opening scene is just so creepy and it's so unsettling as she's like going around and shooting the family, but it's her seeing the vision of it. But then anytime we get a mirror shot, we see the man instead of Lorraine in the reflection. So I just thought that was a very nice creative touch there too by James Wong. And it leads to our first introduction with the nun. I found this out recently that the nun was never supposed to be in this movie, that it was actually something different, but James Wong pushed for this nun character to be introduced, and I believe Warner Brothers actually allowed him to reshoot these scenes and dump a whole bunch of money in it. So that's just crazy because the nun is one of the best parts of this movie. I think significantly better than what they showcased with Annabelle in the first movie. I think the first basement scene we get with Lorraine in her vision state in the Amityville horror house, and we see the nun for the very first time, and Lorraine gets a vision of Ed's death, and I think it automatically just raises the stake and sets the tone a lot better and ties into the story a lot better, and leading to the third act of this movie compared to what our first one did with the Annabelle opening. And again, just like with the first one, I think the second one does it even better, where it really takes time to develop and make the families almost a character in and of itself, where there's not just one or two kids that get most of the development. It really is that family dynamic that you really buy into. It's not overly deep or complicated, or you go on this huge arc or anything, but it's enough to make us care about the family. So that way, when the scary stuff starts going down, the scares hit a little bit harder and the intensity hits a little bit harder because you want to see everybody get out of this situation. Like, I think the movie would still be scary if it didn't take time to develop the characters, but all the scares come off significantly better because the movie does take its time with that aspect. And again, similar to the first movie too, but I think this one does it maybe slightly better in my opinion, where one of the things these two movies, but specifically this one does, is building fear around darkness and in bedrooms and around bedtime. Since we're following these kids and it's the demons again are kind of messing with them when they're at their most vulnerable state. And again, you get great scenes of characters just standing and staring into dark corners of their rooms at night where you could barely kind of make out a figure and your mind is also playing tricks on you too. It just taps into something so primal almost. And I love the scene with Janet as she's talking to her sleep and wakes up her other sister and again staring into that corner. Absolutely chilling. You don't see anything, but I like how the movie kind of plays around with the girls' posters and almost makes you see a face, but then they turn on the light and it's the poster. But then you think back, well, was it the poster? And now am I just saying that because I've seen the poster? What was it actually before? So I love when the movie does things like that. And I think for me with Janet, with her sleepwalking, her night terrors, waking up and having conversations, really tapped into something with me because my sister actually had night terrors and horrible nightmares and would sleepwalk when we were younger too. So it just tapped into something that always creeped me out as a kid, because anytime I was going to bed as a kid, that I'd sit there awake for a little bit just wondering if this was going to be the night that my sister wakes up screaming again. And just that is so creepy, and seeing it play out in this movie is creepy and kind of put me back in one of those experiences that I had. This second Conjuring movie I think also has one of my favorite jump scares in a lot of movies. I don't have a ranking off the top of my head, but I love the scene of Janet when she is staying home sick and she's watching TV, and then all of a sudden the remote disappears to that recliner in the corner of their living room. The channels are flipping through the stations. The screen goes static for a little bit and then cuts to black as the TV shuts off, and then you see the old man just sitting in his recliner chair, and she looks back at the TV, and then the dude is right there behind the TV screaming "My house." And it's just such a great scene full of tension and a big payoff with a jump scare that's genuinely creepy. And again, I think this taps into something that's just personally creepy for me as well. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I've always been scared of reflections. It sounds so stupid to say out loud, but I hate having a mirror in my bedroom. I haven't had a mirror in my bedroom up until this past year or so, just because I hate the idea of maybe looking in there one night and seeing something stare back at me that's not in the room with me. And a TV is a great use of that, especially for me too, as I just get a lot of comfort of sitting down and watching movies that I enjoy. So I can imagine Home Alone, and as I'm watching something, I think I see something in the reflection of my TV. So I love that scare so much because it's done well and also taps into something personal for me too. I also think the nun in this movie gets another great scene when it ends up in the Warrens' household and their daughter sees it at the end of the hallway. Just something about this nun character invading the Warrens' home is so creepy and unsettling. I love that she appears at the end of the hall, kind of lures Lorraine into this room and transforms into this shadow as it kind of slowly walks across the whole room, gets to behind the picture, and then just starts charging at her, and then shows her the vision of her husband dying again. So again, great scares, great build-up, but then it's also doing something scary and personal just to Lorraine as well, which I thought was interesting. So not only is this demon fucking with the family, but now they're going over and just kind of messing around with our Warren characters too. And again, I think this movie does it slightly better with, like we talked about, developing the family side, but also expanding more on the Warrens as characters. I absolutely love the quieter character moments we get in this movie. For example, with Lorraine on the swing with Janet as she tells that story about opening up to somebody, and once they finally found someone they could open up to him, they married him, talking about Ed. And then Ed is at the same time is talking with the mom, and she's opening up about her ex-husband, so we get a little bit more development there. Then later on, Ed is talking with Janet and tells a very similar story that Lorraine was saying, but Janet obviously knows where it's going, and it leads to a great moment right there too. And I love how warm and comforting the Warrens really are to this family and to each other. I just imagine they come off like they're going to be the best grandparents in the world, and I would love to have the Warrens as my grandparents. Even if they had a room full of demonic cult shit, I would still feel warm and comforted by them. I also think that interview scene with Bill Wilkins, not the first one, but that second one, is a significant standout as the demon kind of possesses Janet, and as she asks everyone to turn away, but we could see Bill Wilkins there, really out of focus as it's focusing on Ed Warren, but Bill is in the background, and we kind of see it subtly morph from Janet into Bill Wilkins as they're doing the interview, and then slowly morph back into Janet once Ed holds up his cross. I think it's subtle, it's so creepy, very, very well shot, and just a cool artistic take on a scene that could have felt repetitive to the first time they did it, or come off as cheesy, but it does neither and really sticks that landing for me. And even though we'll get into some of my issues with how it kind of feels similar to the first one, but I like that they do small things to kind of separate itself as well. For example, the film introduces doubt into this family's possession story when later on in the movie we find video evidence that makes it look like Janet trashed the kitchen. It makes it look like she was doing this on her own. Just it's a big hoax, and it throws everything into question for the family. And I like how it ties into the themes of disbelief with the Warrens as well, because all throughout the beginning we see them on these news shows talking to each other about how the public kind of sees them as these con people. So now they're put in a position where they either have to trust somebody or trust the physical evidence as well. So it kind of brings up that moral ambiguity of the Warrens and what they're going to do. And I like how it puts you as the audience as well. Like, they're not faking it, but how can you explain this? So I like that slight difference in the story there. I also think the third act is just as intense and crazy as the first one is. You got Ed breaking into the house while Janet she's fully possessed, just going on this rampage now, and Lorraine is still being haunted by the death of Ed and is trying to get into the house with Ed. At one point, something burst off a pipe and hits poor Ed in the face, so his hearing is ringing, his vision is all blurry, so it's all culminating to this third act that is just so intense, with our characters all split up but still trying to work together to defeat this evil. I think it just creates such a more urgent and high stakes climax that feels similar to the first one, still feels bigger, but still grounded in its universe as well. But yeah, let's jump into my mixed aspects for the movie. And again, I think I have a similar complaint, unfortunately, to our first movie now with this one. I think it's still a missed opportunity again to not put more of that mystery, discovery, that true investigative aspect to the Warrens into the mystery of the story. For example, with Bill Wilkins' backstory, sure, we get a cool scene as he's kind of revealing it to us throughout a couple different interviews, but he pretty much just lays out, what happened to him. There's a little bit more to it, but it just kind of lays it all out there to our characters, to the audience. So I just kind of wish that it was more integrated into the story and kind of unraveled and not in that convenient way. And they try to attempt a twist and third act reveal of this discovery part, but it just comes off as so hand-fisted. When Ed and Lorraine have to leave because of the evidence that they saw, they're getting on this train and Ed drops these recording tapes and they kind of crisscross, and he's like, oh my God, that's it. I gotta play them together now. It's gonna reveal all the secrets, and it reveals to the scenes of these overlapping tapes, leading to a full explanation of what Bill Wilkins was trying to say. And it feels way too convenient. It's so easy how it kind of all plays out to them and feels so rushed and just hand-fisted into there. And then right after that too, you get Lorraine's vision. It kicks right in exactly when she needs it to, revealing what's really behind Bill, which is the demon of Valak. And then as they're driving to this family's house, they got Ed and Lorraine Warren explaining it all to the neighbor, which just feels like they're hand-holding me as well. And like I said, it's in my mix because I do appreciate that they try to add a little bit more. There are reveals. I just don't like how the reveals are done. And I'm putting this in my mix. It's really not a big deal because I still think the movie does it very well. Just watching these back to back, it can feel a little bit templated, where in the first one we're following a family that moves into a home and gets possessed, and in the second movie we're following a family that's been in this house for a little bit but still gets possessed. And again, I think they do it very, very well here. I wonder how this movie would feel if I'd like it even more, if maybe they try to switch up the story even more. So I kind of hate how by the numbers they really do follow the template of the first one, but at the same time it still works for me. It's not a negative for me whatsoever. But I think you do really kind of feel that template format to these movies, especially when you get to the very, very end of the movie and they defeat the evil by now Lorraine condemning Valak back to hell. And in the first one, Ed condemned the demon back to hell, so they defeat it in the same way. So I wish they switched up a little bit more. They needed to switch up a little bit more, in my opinion. But let's jump into my negatives, or the things that I just didn't like about this movie. And I really do hate how Lorraine figures out Valak's name. She randomly, as they're trying to bust down the door to get to Ed in the house, she randomly goes out to the rain and is like screaming, "What's your name? What's your name?" It reminds me of the scene of I Know What You Did Last Summer when Jennifer Love Hewitt's like shouting in the middle of the street. It comes off the same kind of cheesiness way as it did in that movie. And then she kind of has a flashback vision where it's not full vision, just a little exposition vision a little bit. And she remembers earlier in the movie when she saw the nun in her house that when it was kind of controlling her there, she was like stabbing her Bible. But in reality, she was like writing out Valak very violently and almost stabbing her daughter. And then Lorraine realizes that she does know its name. Lorraine now has power over the demon, but it never stops to explain why on earth this demon would ever just reveal its name like that to her, especially knowing that it now has power over the demon. So it just makes no sense. And again, I appreciate that they're trying to do a little bit more, add a little bit more mystery, have a little bit more reveals, but they feel so hand-fisted, unearned, way too convenient here. But all that to say, again, very similar to my first one where the mixed and negatives really don't take away from my overall enjoyment with this second Conjuring movie, because I think it is a creepy, atmospheric sequel that expands on the Warren story and delivers even more scares, where this is a longer movie, but you don't feel that runtime whatsoever because it's just constant scares that keep elevating this material. I think it builds great tension, adds some good emotional depth, and while it follows similar styles and plot points of the first one, it's still done in a way that's enjoyable and still feels somewhat fresh and unique. So for my rating, again, very similar to the first one, this is going to be a very, at points, difficult ranking to kind of do, but I own it on DVD here. I got the Blu-ray box set. I'd love to upgrade and own this one on 4K, and I do it at its full price because I need it. I want it as part of my collection because these first two movies really do mean a lot to me. So you guys have my thoughts here on the Conjuring 2. Please let me know down below what you think of this movie. Do you like it more than the first one? Did you see it when it came out? Has your opinion changed on it at all? Please let me know that information down below here. But yeah, like I said, look forward to the rest of my Conjuring movie reviews. We got The Devil Made Me Do It next, and then we'll be talking about the fourth one when I go out and see it. So look forward to those videos, but that's about it. I appreciate anybody watching my videos, so thank you so much. And yeah, look forward to more ZakIsCinema coming very soon.